What happened to row the boat in Minnesota? PJ Fleck was the it coach in the Big Ten. He won a lot of games. Last year, the momentum just kind of ended. And I'm not so sure it's going to get going again this year. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. I'm Craig Sheeman, going on 40 years as a sports talk show host and a play-by-play announcer. And we're thrilled you're here with us here today on Locked On. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com and get yourself started. So are we rowing the boat at Minnesota, or is it starting to sink a little bit? We'll go over the record. We'll predict some wins and losses with the schedule. And we also have our classics for the weekend coming up. Some great ones for you this weekend on Big Ten Network. So what's going on in Minnesota? Where are we at? PJ Fleck was the young and exciting coach in the Big Ten and college football, and he's still only 43 years old. He looked cool with the quarter zips and the boat, or the tie and the shades. Did that row the boat thing, everybody going in the same direction. It was all good and exciting. It was contagious. That excitement was contagious for everybody. And he won. That helps everything go forward. So after arriving at Minnesota with an impressive resume with stops at Ohio State and Rutgers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as an assistant, and then head coach at Western Michigan, he was in his mid-30s and ready to go. He was a two-time MAC Coach of the Year. In 2019, he was the Big Ten Coach of the Year at Minnesota. At Western Michigan, he won 8 games in both years 2 and 3, and he led them to a 13-1 record in his 4th and final year. Minnesota noticed, and they made him the head coach going into the 2017 season. He popped in year 3, 2019, went 11-2. Everybody was thrilled. Had a little bit of a reset, COVID, 3-4 season. That was a weird year. Bounced right back with back-to-back 9-4 seasons in 2021 and 2022. So as we're sitting here 1 year ago today, there was a lot of excitement going into the 2023 season. It seemed like PJ Fleck had the magic touch over there in Minnesota with what's going on. They ended up at 6-7. So what happened? Well, they had some good defensive play in their secondary, and they had a promising ground game offensively. That got derailed by injuries. I also think they had some subpar play at quarterback, and that hurt them. Athan Kaliakmanis wasn't the greatest. It turns out that he and Fleck reportedly had a falling out after the Purdue game last year, and Kaliakmanis hit the transfer portal. And, of course, now he's playing at Rutgers under Minnesota's former offensive coordinator out there on Greg Schiano's staff. Now, we'll talk about Minnesota's current quarterback situation in just a moment, and I have some concerns there. So after all that last year, after the annual coaching carousel, coaches getting fired and hired and moving around, and the hirings, and, of course, the bowl season and the transfer portals and the recruiting, all of a sudden, PJ Fleck's name surfaced for the UCLA job out of the blue when Chip Kelly surprised everybody and left to come to Ohio State to become the offensive coordinator. I thought that was weird at the time because other than a short stint on the 49ers roster as a wide receiver, he had no West Coast ties out there, not that I knew of anyway. And Fleck immediately, at least publicly, seemed to deny any interest in the UCLA job. And as I recall, issued a pretty forceful denial while on vacation. But it worked out in his favor because the Minnesota Board of Regents reportedly, because he was being sought after allegedly by UCLA, approved his retention bonuses in his contract that can total an additional $5.7 million if he fulfills his deal through 2029. So he's in good shape financially. Makes about $6 million a year as well. But I am a believer that where there is some smoke, there's some fire. I think there were some conversations going on out there at Westwood and UCLA. So why the fire? Is it possible that Fleck knows that he's going to follow a disappointing 2023 with an equally disappointing 2024? Maybe. Is it time for him to look for a parachute before the seat starts getting hot? I don't know. We don't know. We'll never know, but it's a possibility. So let's take a look at this team. He's coming back. The team's coming back. We'll see how they are. Let's kind of see how this shakes out a little bit. And as we do this, I want to note that if you are an everydayer here on Locked On Big Ten, you know that we do a pretty good job of reporting on recruiting news and transfer portal news. And we've been pretty busy with that over the past couple of months, keep you up to date with everybody. And we'll see if you agree with me. But it seems to me we've reported less Gopher news than anybody else. Not because we have anything against the Gophers. We love the Gophers. Love PJ Fleck. It just seems like there hasn't been a lot of news or good news, if you want to look at it that way. There haven't been big name transfer guys coming in for the most part, or big time, highly rated recruits signing up to come to Minnesota. There have been some here and there. I mean, we haven't been out in the cold totally, but doesn't seem to be a lot going on. It seems to be really quiet around there in Minnesota. That's what I think anyway. There's just been less news to report. So where are we? As I mentioned, Athan Kaliakmanis, he ended up going to Rutgers. For better or for worse, he's gone. So who's the quarterback? Well, it looks like it's going to be Max Brosmer. He transferred in from New Hampshire. Some people are pretty excited about him being at Minnesota. He was the leading passer in FCS at New Hampshire. You know where I'm going with this. 3,464 yards. Nothing to sneeze at. 29 touchdowns. Great. Not bad. But can he make the jump to big boy football in the Big Ten? He was at FCS. I'm a little apprehensive about how that's going to work out against Big Ten defenses. And behind him on the depth chart, a couple of freshmen. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous for the Gophers at the quarterback position. A little concerned there. Now, a quarterback's best friend can be a running back. And at that position, this is the strength of the football team. The Gophers are great at running back. First of all, sophomore Darius Taylor. He's a sophomore from Detroit. We love talking about him in the first half of the season last year. He only played in 6 games, and he got hurt. In 3 of those 6 games, he was the Big Ten Freshman of the Week. He averaged 133 yards per game in the first half of the season. On fire. Haven't seen anything like that in years, it seems like. He did come back for the Quick Lane Bowl and was the game's MVP. He's back. All right, so that's good. Gophers also brought in a couple of upperclassmen running backs in the transfer portal, including Marcus Major from Oklahoma. And then also coming back, and he's now listed as fourth string at running back, Jordan Nubin. I think he should be higher on the list than that. There was a time he filled in at running back because of the injuries, and he was freshman of the week as well. Rushed 40 times for 204 yards against Michigan State. Awesome. And by the way, shout out to that offensive line last year too. They'll be running behind an offensive line that includes some of these guys from last year. They have some experience. They've got a grad transfer up front, a couple of redshirt seniors as well. So some experience on offensive line. So you got an older offensive line. You got a good running game that can help out a new quarterback. We'll see. On the outside, they got Daniel Jackson. He's coming back after playing all 13 games last year. Made the all Big Ten second team and led the team with 59 catches, 831 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So there's something to work with here on offense. So let's take a look at the defense for the Gophers. Their strength is going to be their defensive line. No question about it. It's pretty good last year. It's pretty good this year. Team had 26 sacks last year. Sack leader Deja Joyner, who had 7.5 of those sacks, he's back and ready to go. Edge rusher Danny Strigow returns following 6 sacks last season as well. Now, the defense hauled in 12 interceptions last year. Secondary was pretty good, I thought. Tyler Nubin had 5 of them, but he's gone. got to replace him. Look, I always like to be positive when I'm looking ahead at all these teams in the Big Ten for the upcoming season. There's always something positive you can look at. And there's some things here with Minnesota that we could look at. But we're going to take a look at their schedule. And we're going to do the one-loss game. We're going to predict and try and figure out where they are. And could be a tough season for Minnesota. Could be a tough season. So anyway, we'll do that. Be sure to subscribe right now if you haven't yet. We're making our push to 10,000 subscribers. We're over 9,000. You know, last year when we took over this channel, we were like at 1,200. We're rolling. Thank you to you guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do it. Be part of the flow. You'll be in the loop here with the Big Ten. You can follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. While you're at it, don't forget to pick up some Minnesota Golden Gopher merchandise, shirts, hats, t-shirts, pennants, right on our website. You see the crawl here on the bottom. Talk Big Ten. That's the number 10. TalkBig10.com. TalkBig10.com. All of our podcasts go there chronologically, and then we group them by school or team. So if you're a Gophers fan, this one will get filed away under the Gophers since we're concentrating on them today. You can find it by your favorite school as well. But go ahead, check it out. Get yourself some merchandise and some tickets for an upcoming game, all right there on the website, talkbig10.com. All right. So we're going to take a look at this schedule. We're going to navigate it together. We'll see how many wins we can come up with our predictions here. It's all coming up in a minute on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel. We all love sports, and sports are even better when you do it with FanDuel. All right. We got baseball season here, getting ready to get ramped back up after the All-Star break. FanDuel helps you keep involved in the sports all summer long. FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and make the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Coming off by the way, the overhit in the All-Star game were 7.5. They scored 8. Just FYI, that was something you played. Friday action in the Major League Baseball. Some things I want to look at here. Phillies over the Pirates, Rays over the Yankees. Yankees are just really did they need the All-Star break or what? Tigers 110-14 going into the break, red hot. Maybe the break came at a bad time for them. They take on the Blue Jays. I like the Tigers over the Blue Jays. I take the O's over the Rangers. Parlay some of these as well. Bigger payout. All right, so check it out. That is all part of FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com today and have some fun with all of these games going on. All right. Want to get into the schedule now for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. But first, I want to thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget to check out our website after you subscribe. Everything's free. The website, talkbig10.com. All right, the Gophers schedule. Now, remember, North Carolina. Drake May's gone. Both teams will have new quarterbacks here in this game. This is at Minnesota. It's a Thursday. They're going to open early. Thursday, August 29th. Gophers at home against North Carolina. It's 8 o'clock national TV on Fox. I don't know. I think North Carolina is a little more loaded than, again, there's going to be question marks for both of these teams. Probably a little bit of feeling each other out in the first half. Probably going to be a good football game. North Carolina handled Minnesota pretty well last year out at North Carolina. I think North Carolina will eke out the win here as well. Week 2, Saturday, September 7th. Taking on Rhode Island. That should be a win. So 1-1. Taking on Nevada, September 14th. That should be another win. 2-1 the record. Then September 13th, it's Iowa. Very big on Iowa this year. Not as big as last year. It's a home game for Minnesota, so that helps. But I think this is gonna be this. By the way, take the under on this game. You got a young quarterback with Minnesota. They're gonna run the ball. Iowa doesn't score points. I'll tell you right now, take the under on that game. I think Iowa edges it out. This is a 50-50 game. This could go down to a field goal at the end, but I'm thinking 2-2 at this point. And then on the road, September 28th at Michigan. Now, they're not ready to win that ball game. And so that's now 2-3. Taking on Southern Cal the week after that. That's tough. It's another loss, I think. Southern Cal, it's a home game for Minnesota. That's cool. At UCLA. UCLA is going to struggle this year. You know what? I'm in a generous mood. Let's give the Gophers the win there. That again could be a field goal game, could be an ugly game. I think 3-3 at this point. Maryland, again, they don't they got a new quarterback. We're going to preview them later. That's a winnable game, as is at Illinois. I think at Illinois will win that. Maybe the Gophers can win. If they win the Maryland game, that's 4. Couple games on the road. That's at Illinois, at Rutgers. I think they're going to lose both of those games. And then they come home and take on Penn State. That's a loss. Sorry, that's 3 losses in a row. So you got 4 wins right there. And then you close it out on the Friday night game against Wisconsin. And I believe I said the other night when we previewed Wisconsin that that's a Wisconsin win at Wisconsin. Camp Randall, Black Friday after Thanksgiving. That's tough. That's 4 wins. It's a 4-8 season. Maybe trying to see if we can find another win. Maybe you win the Iowa game. 5 wins. I think that's it. Minnesota. I'm sorry. 4-5. That's the ceiling. Anyway, you can disagree with me if you want. Just trying to keep it honest, keeping it real here. Don't forget to hit me up on Twitter or X at TalkBig10. Comments on YouTube are always welcome as well. And don't forget our website, talkbig1010.com. All right, that's the schedule. That's how it is. If you watch TV throughout the day, maybe you're a FS1 or an ESPN person, volume on, volume low, just get rid of it altogether. Got something better for you in the daytime. Locked On Sports Today. That's right, Locked On Sports Today, our friends at Locked On. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the latest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, it's going to be hot out this weekend. Stay inside in the air condition, watch some more TV, watch the Big Ten Network. We got a lot of classics going on this weekend. You can cool off and reminisce the good old days of yesteryear of Big Ten sports, some football, some basketball, some classics. You know, if you're new to this podcast, and thank you for finding us, we always have a feature in our final segment. On Mondays, we come out with our Big Ten Top 10 observations from the weekend. Tuesdays, we do Tuesday tweets. It's kind of like a mailbag segment, sort of. Again, if you follow us on Twitter at TalkBig10, you put up something there. I like it. I'm going to put it on Tuesday's podcast every week. Wednesday, we do my power rankings. When the season gets going, we'll power rank teams and change it up every week. But we always find something fun and unusual to rank. Rowdy stadiums, cool uniforms, best quarterbacks, always something on Wednesday. Thursdays, we take a look at the Big Ten Network. Even though we're not affiliated with them, we obviously have some similar interests. And so I always point out what's coming up over the weekend. And then once the season starts, we intertwine the announcements of Big Ten Classics that they air and live broadcasts. So you know where to find your teams on the broadcast each and every week. And then Friday, we close it out with some sort of pick them when the season is here. A little more than a month from now, we can actually start picking games again. Recently, we've been doing things like futures and lines to win Heismans and stuff like that. So that's what we do in the final segment. And in the final segment today, we'll take a look at Big Ten Classics on the Big Ten Network. That is coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, let's take a look at the Big Ten Classics for this weekend. What's on the tube? We don't share everything, just the things we think you'll be really, really interested in. If you are on audio only, I'll describe them to you. A lot of people just listen on their favorite podcast app on audio. You don't see the TV or the video graphics. We'll point them out, and we'll do the video on YouTube, of course. So let's go full screen and check this out. Started off with Friday, July 19th. We'll pick it up at 3 p.m. all times Eastern. This is Big Ten softball, the softball championship between Nebraska and Michigan. They're re-airing that at 3 o'clock. At 5:30, it is a Nebraska football classic. We got the Orange Bowl from January of 95, Nebraska versus Miami. And the Cornhuskers overcoming a 17-9 deficit in the fourth quarter to defeat the Hurricanes, giving Coach Tom Osborne his first national title at Nebraska. Yeah, we claim that here in the Big Ten. We do. All right, let's and then at 6:30, Nebraska Football Classic, the Fiesta Bowl from January of 1996, Nebraska at Florida. That was quarterback Tommy Frazier rushing for 2 touchdowns and threw for another to help the top-ranked Cornhuskers to a 62-24 victory over the second-ranked Gators for their second consecutive national championship. All right, moving on along to some Saturday action I want to highlight here on the Big Ten Network. More Big Ten classics and reruns and highlights at 1 o'clock Eastern. It is Big Ten men's ice hockey, the Big Ten tournament championship. Minnesota versus Michigan. So check that. Stay cool from the heat. Come inside, air condition, and watch something on ice. It'll make you psychologically. It'll make you feel better. Then we're going to fast forward to 11 p.m. A Minnesota football classic. Purdue at Minnesota from October of 2014. David Cobb rushing for 194 yards and a touchdown. And Ryan Santoso kicking a 52-yard field goal with just under 5 minutes to go to cap Minnesota's comeback over Purdue in that one. Now, looking ahead to Sunday, let's check out their schedule. We've got a full slate of stuff we want to point out. A lot of Purdue stuff on the board here on Sunday. Let's pick it up at 4 o'clock Eastern time. We got Big Ten Elite. It is a piece on the 2000 Purdue football team. This is with head coach Joe Tiller. This is with quarterback Drew Brees. You may have heard of him. Returning to the Rose Bowl after winning the Big Ten title for the first time since 1966. You'll hear from Tiller and Brees, Vinny Sutherland, and others as they highlight wins over Michigan, Wisconsin, and Ohio State that year. Just a magical, magical season. Again, that's on at 4 o'clock. And then that leads into 5 o'clock Eastern, a Purdue football classic. Notre Dame at Purdue from September of 1999. Drew Brees passing for 317 yards and a touchdown. Ran for another score to help the 20th ranked Boilermakers to a 28-23 victory over the 16th ranked Fighting Irish. It was the first really good glimpse, this 99 team, of what was coming for 2000. What we were just talking about with Big Ten Elite, the 2000 Purdue football team. And then at 6 o'clock, we got Purdue basketball classic, Purdue at Illinois. That's from March of this year. This is a few months ago. Zach Edey, now with Memphis, scoring 28 points, and Fletcher Lawyer adding 16 to help the third-ranked Boilermakers beat the 12th-ranked Fighting Illini 77-71 to win the Big Ten regular season title. And then at 7 o'clock, a Purdue basketball classic from 2024, even more recent, late March, just a few months ago. It is their Elite Eight game in the NCAA tournament, Purdue versus Tennessee. You could check that out. More Zach Edey, a career-high 40 points and 16 rebounds to lead the top-seeded Boilermakers to a 72-66 victory over the second-seeded Volunteers to advance to the Final Four. And then late night, Sunday night, 11:30 p.m. Eastern time, Purdue football classic, Michigan at Purdue. We just told you a few minutes ago that was the season they beat Michigan in 2000, October of 2000. Drew Brees with 286 yards. He, in that game, became Purdue's all-time leading passer. That says something. They had a few quarterbacks back in the day. Travis George kicked a 33-yard field goal with 4 seconds remaining to complete the Boilermakers rally and upset the Wolverines 32-31. So there's a peek at what's going on this weekend on the Big Ten Network. You can check that out with the Big Ten Classics. We always point that out on Thursdays. All right, lots going on. We've been chipping away, talking about all the teams in the Big Ten. I think we still have Maryland and Michigan State to do, plus the 4 West Coast teams, Oregon, Washington, UCLA, and USC. We'll do all those. Plus, starting Tuesday of next week, It's the Big Ten Media Days. There's always news coming out of there that we like to talk about, so we can't wait for all that. We'll give you a list of who's going to be there. Not obviously the head coaches, all 18 of them, but they'll all bring a player or two with them as well. So we'll run that down and give you our expectations for what we want to hear before it starts, and then we'll cover it and talk about it as it's going on each and every day right here on Locked On Big Ten. Tell your friends about us that we're out here every day. If you're new to us, if you just discovered us, let your people know. And don't forget to subscribe. Many ways for you to interact with me here on Twitter at Talk Big Ten, number 10. Also, the comments on YouTube, and then our website, talkbig10.com. Be sure to subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Feel free to watch a couple more episodes of Locked On Big Ten. Catch the ones earlier this week. They're all great. Always had a good time with them. When you're done with us, don't forget our friends at Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts on Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right. Enjoy the visit as always. Again, tell your friends about us. Can't wait till we meet again next time for Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Talk to you next time.